Sangye Chodong, Sodye Chonam La, Changcho Parto Dani Kyab, Dage Chuje Gibe Senam Chin Do La Penjera, Sangye Do Bare Sho, Sangye Chodong, Sodye Chonam La, Changcho Parto Dani Kyab, Dage Chuje Gibe Senam Chin Do La Penjera, Sangye Do Bare Sho. Sangye Jedang Soje Chonam Lai Changcho Partoya Dane Kyosei Dage Chushe Gebe Sunam Chen Dola Penjere Sangye Do Bare Sho Semchen Tamje Dewa Dan Deve Gyudan Dembare Dunga Dan Dunga Ge Gyudan Tavare Chuje Dungala Mebe Dewa Tambat Minda Vare Churje Nyerang Chaudan Nyedan Chalve Tangyam Chembo La Neb Jura Je Simje Tamje Dewa Dan Deve Gyudan Dembra Dunga Dan Dunga Ge Gyudan Tavare Churje Dungala Mebe Dewa Tamba Minda Vare Churje Nyerang Chaudan Nyedan Chalve Tangyam Chembo La Nebra Churje Simchen Tamche Dewa Tang Deve Gyudan Dembraj Dunga Dan Dunga Ge Gyudan Taware Chuje Dunga Mebe Dewa Tamba Dan Mindo Waraj Nyerang Chaudan Nyedan Talwe Tangyam Chembo La Nebra Churoi Chi Paldian Savya Lama Rimbo Chen Dage Chiwa Pede Dinyo Kaden Chembo Gone Jason De Koson Tokje Ngodo Za Doi Soe Balden Dorje Changwa Rike Chabda Lama Karmapa Chingro Kunje June Sijep Idam Dorje Nanjurma Tinle Kunje Chobon Chujon Perche Chamda La Nanjuro Kubar Sechin Damya Toje Kyongwara Enze Kanjir Tsenye Gyalwe Loto Penzot Sabe Tane Pella Chunda Yurento Longche Nela Mimpa Tawon Dejero Tejira Dagi Dongma Nije Teborje Tangbo Nga Dala Shinjuru Shin Dagin Dishe Ngula Chak Suchen Chanda Rangwa Mepa Yen Dola Ningje Churkan Tela Ende Kang la semje tamba rinchen te cheba ti ye ko la chasaj Kang la neba che chan dendel wa deven jung ne te la kyao sui chi Okay, good morning. So okay, so just to go through 7 points of mind training again. The very first point is the foundation, foundation practice for bodhicitta. And those foundation practices are the 4 thoughts that will help us to turn our mind away from samsara. In other words, it means if we focused on these 4 meditation, 4 thoughts, it will help our mind to engage in Dharma. So therefore, it is very important to do that, because the very first step is to mature our mind by Dharma. And therefore, these four methods, we can say, right? Four thoughts, I'm saying it in short, or four, meditation are very important, because they really establish this foundation, for Dharma. And so this is why that is the foundation. And then the second point is the bodhicitta itself. Here, both the relative and the ultimate bodhicitta. In the book, it first explains the ultimate bodhicitta and then the relative bodhicitta. In the Lojong book, 7 Points of Mind Training, then the method to generate this bodhicitta is, the tradition of Shantideva. Meaning this teaching is found in Shantideva. In Shantideva's book, there are actually two methods. The first method is called the method of sameness. The method of sameness is, very much similar to the idea of empathy in English. But I'm not going to go in detail right now, but empathy. But the main root, let's say, foundation for cultivating of bodhicitta is, the traditional word for that is called changing oneself with others. This I've said many times. In short, it means that in order to experience, in order to experience kindness, compassion, love, or bodhicitta, we need to reduce, we need to get rid of those minds that refrain us from experiencing kindness, compassion, and love. And that, let's say, those minds in this case is referred to as self-clinging, self-cherishing, which I've been saying before, which means, this thought in us to always think of one's own well-being and always putting one's own well-being before the well-being of others. This thought is called self-cherishing. And if we did that, then really there will be no room for compassion, because this is the opposite of compassion and kindness. So we can see that we have to make a room. We have to make room for compassion. And therefore, to make room, we have to, get rid of these things that is occupying that room. So what is occupying right now is this thought, correct, of self-cherishing. So therefore, by understanding, their fault, we can see, by understanding the harm that self-clinging, ego-clinging can bring us, this knowledge, this understanding will help us to do that. So, and then once when that is done, now the actual practice really is about the, cherishing other, in short. So it's replaced, so it means, from now onwards, then I will try to really always think of the well-being of others as much as I can. And if possible, I will always put the well-being of other sentient beings before oneself. This thought, this, method, this practice, meditation is the main practice here in this Lojong practice. And once when we have practiced that, then, we do this practice based on Tonglen practice, as it says in the book, the Tonglen practice. Again, we're just going through it, okay? And once when we have sort of established the relative bodhicitta and the sense of ultimate bodhicitta, then we use this bodhicitta, to turn all of the difficulties that we face while practicing the Buddha Dharma. It is very true that when we practice Buddha Dharma, we definitely will face many challenges, difficulties, to the extent of losing one's life, actually. What gives us courage, what helps us to make through that, to go through that, is actually renunciation and bodhicitta. So therefore, he says that, this is what it meant by turning all of the adversities, into the path, right? This was the practice. So we do that. We try to do this, as much as we can, with the help of bodhicitta. Again, I have to say with the help of bodhicitta, but it's not really limited to bodhicitta in that way. In general, I really like to think Dharma, actually. Dharma will never fail us. Dharma, as in the wisdoms of the Buddha, it's impossible that, it will fail us. But yes, we can fail them, many a times. So therefore, we can blindly trust the wisdoms of the Buddha, actually, the teachings of the Buddha. So Dharma here meaning teachings, not only one or two or three. There are no categories or separation. Any teaching of the Buddha, meaning any wisdom of the Buddhas, bodhisattvas, all these wisdoms, help us in our lives, help us on our path to enlightenment. So these wisdoms, they become the source of our benefit. Okay, so therefore, anyway, that's how we try to, third, I think, is turning the adversities. Also in life, it's not only in Dharma, actually in life also, okay? Meaning of course, we are in samsara and we are human beings and we live life. When we live life, then life is full of challenges. It's almost like, non-stop. These difficulties mentally, physically, emotionally, it's always going to be there. We should not think that, they will just slip away, go away. They will not go away like that. But at the same time, then we take refuge. This is the meaning of taking a refuge in the Buddha Dharma, right? What else is there? So we must take refuge in the Dharma, meaning in these wisdoms, of the Buddha Dharma. And these wisdoms, they really will help us because, like I've said many times, one of the reasons we suffer or we go through these kind of conditions is because of lack of wisdom with regard to the reality of life, reality of my existence. We don't really know the truth about ourselves. And therefore, we suffer. And the wisdom of the Buddhas really is the one that help us to open up our mind, open up our eyes, and see the truth, see the reality. And it's very important to do that. The only way to really, help oneself is by opening up our eyes to the reality and accepting the reality. When I say accepting the reality, not forcefully, with this wisdom. And along the wisdom, compassion comes about. So, so therefore, we could see that, what it meant by turning the adversaries. Not just me, I guess all the Dharma practitioners 100% believe that, that we can always depend on Dharma, these wisdoms. And these wisdoms never fail to help us unless we didn't manage or we lack the wisdom to understand the Dharma, or sometimes out of confusion, if we understood the Dharma the wrong way, then of course it will not help. Otherwise, there is no doubt at all, that this wisdom cannot help us. Never doubt that, actually. Never doubt the Buddha Dharma. Anyway, so these adversities, how we can turn them, I think it's number 4th. And number 5th is not so important because it's talking about, how will I know, that Dharma has taken place in my heart? How will I know that now some sort of, realization is taking place in my heart? When they take place in my heart, we just feel it, correct? So don't get too tangled up with these signs, all these things. You feel the warmth. From my understanding, it's always like this. There's a warmth in my heart, like I said, It's the warmth of the wisdom, renunciation, devotion, anything that. We need that warmth. That warmth really helps us from the samsaric pains and confusions and delusions that we have. It's my way of thinking. You don't have to agree with me, but I'm just sharing because that's what I'm supposed to do, But I'm not saying you please believe in what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. I'm just simply saying out loud how I understood these teachings in my lifetimes. I spent my entire life in Dharma, so to speak. This is not to say I'm learned. I'm not, actually. I'm not learned. I'm not an advanced person. But yes, I am someone who have seen Dharma very closely, That doesn't mean anything, actually, okay? But anyway, so it's because the whole point is to share what I think of that. So this is what I'm saying. So the point was, we have that point called, I guess it's also good in some ways because, it aspires you more to practice. Meaning when you feel the warmth of the Dharma in your heart, in your mind, those warmth are the warmth that comes from wisdom, compassion, kindness, renunciation. And really that can change your perspective, regarding the world, regarding life, there will be more, your perspective, will be very profound, very deep. This is what I'm thinking. So it is the signs will be there regardless of, of these numbers, so to speak, okay? The signs will be there. So, but it is about that, I think, number-wise, I think that's 5th number, or probably 4th, yes. And the 5th Lojong practice, all regarding with the Lojong was actually very important. We talked about 5 power, especially, like I said, from what I remember, especially was that, generally speaking, Dharma practice that we do from the time when we enter Dharma until I die, I breathe my last. One thing that is in our mind is, that we really prepare for death, so to speak. Preparing for death is actually preparing for coming life, for future. But that future is, the let's say, future rebirth we are talking about. But it is about also, death. Not from the point of view of fearing. I prepare my entire life, I practice Dharma. One, so that I really, can fulfill my, my life. Meaning to have this sense of, of a purposeful life, meaningful life, that is one. The second is, when I die, I have no regret, but I die with, without any fear, or with a confidence, actually, with a confidence. So this those 5 power that we talk about, was about that actually. So those are very, very important. The 5 power are actually the ground, for Dharma practice, all of them. Right. And then comes the 6th one and 7th one. 6th are the commitments, and samaya, it's called samaya or tamsik, which we went through. And the 7th is the disciplines. Like I said yesterday, probably, when I closely think about what it meant by this Maya discipline, I kind of understand that these are, part of the practice of, the perfections. Like, for example, part of practice of patience, part of practice of diligence, part of practice of generosity, being very generous. And then, of course, it's also part of practice of concentration, part of practice of wisdom too. And here the names are different. Here the names are given like the samaya, the commitment, and the discipline, right? But in short, they can be very much included, in the practice of the 6 paramitas, especially really, the patience and discipline, the paramita discipline and the paramita patience. In that, this whole set is actually included. Another thing I want to share is that the last 2 segments of the samaya, right, and then the discipline, these are the foundation, with which we improve, with which we advance, our bodhicitta, okay? Without them, then our bodhicitta cannot be improved. So therefore, this, segment of the commitment, the samaya, and the discipline that we will now go through, they become the foundation for overcoming of all the obstacles that are against the bodhicitta. And this way, when we are able to overcome the conflicting emotions, conflicting thoughts, and mind that conflict with compassion, kindness, wisdom. This is mainly what we are talking about. So with our wisdom, with our knowledge, we try to, overcome them. There are many conflicting thoughts and emotions, right? So that's what we call them obstacles, actually. So it's very important to do that. Meaning it's very important to have this knowledge, what in my mind is conflicting with my wisdom. What in my mind is a thought that is conflicting with my compassion, kindness. Anything that is conflicting it, then that is the one that is stopping me, refraining me, from experiencing that thought, correct? So it's very rational to understand that in order for me to experience that, I need to get rid of this thought that conflicts that realization, that conflicts this meditation, right? Those are called obscurations. It's all very rational, actually. All right, so now we will go through the remaining part of the book. And I'm going to now read actually from the Rinpoche's book, and I will also comment on that, okay? Oops. Okay. All right. So regarding the sixth point, which is commitment, in this book by Shamrambachi, he counts 16 of them, 16 commitments. And in other books, there are little more, like 18. Like I said many times, there are different numbers with the commitments. I guess they can be included in some other, commitments, but just reminding you. So it's not a mistake if you read other. And then from the discipline. Now the 7th point is discipline. In here, in this book, I found, it doesn't number it, but I found 22 disciplines. In other book, I think there were like 20, little more disciplines. So just number-wise, there are these different numbers, regarding the commitment and regarding the the discipline. Okay. Right now we are in number 6. Let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We did 5 of them, the discipline, and now number 6. If it doesn't matter, but just saying number 6. Number 6, it says in this book I'm reading, okay, now, so it gets easier. Train in 3 difficulties. I'm going to read the commentary and I will comment on that a little bit. When we deal with negative emotions, we encounter 3 difficulties. The first is learning to recognize the negative emotions when it first appears. It is often difficult to notice it right away. You have to hone your mindfulness. Otherwise, once the appearance of an emotion has escaped your attention, it takes form in many thoughts and feelings. To subdue emotion is second difficulty. You have to apply appropriate remedy and not follow the emotional effects. The third difficulty is to ensure that the negativity will not continue, that it will not happen again. This means to eventually uproot self-clinging, the source of all emotions. In order to achieve this goal, practice the Dharma methods to develop wisdom. You have to practice dealing with all 3 difficulties. Of 3, the most important is to try to tame each negative emotion as soon as you notice it. Once you have developed the habit of controlling your mind, these 3 will cease to be difficulties at all. All right. And as you can see, that is really about working with emotions. And it is very true that why it is difficult to work with emotion. 3 reasons. The first reason is, first of all, we probably don't notice them. This is what he says. It's very true. Many a times we don't realize that this is an emotion actually. Arise anger. So because we lack this sharpness of wisdom, or we could say we lack this wisdom to realize, to notice the arising of the emotions. And due to that, we fail to recognize the emotions. So now therefore, learning, reflecting, meditating becomes very important. I'm thinking when we learn And especially when we do the reflecting part, this wisdom of reflection is what helps us to experience awareness. And awareness is what helps us to really recognize, what is occurring in my mind. So emotion-wise, there will be immediate recognition of the emotions. So first we need to recognize the emotion is what he's saying actually. Of course, once when we recognize the emotions, and now we have to implement the antidote accordingly, right? And apply. That part is, and we, like if generally speaking, then if it is anger, the common idea is to focus on compassion. So, yes. Therefore, here, antidote, focusing or finding the right antidote for that particular emotion. In general, there's just one antidote actually, and that one single antidote is none other than vipassana, the transcendental wisdom, or we can call it insight. The insight, not inside, okay, insight. Why? Because all of this emotion, they are all rooted in confusion, they are all rooted in ignorance. Without any doubt, there's no doubt. It's rooted in that. One that can really remove that ignorance and whatever that ignorance has created is none other than the wisdom. It's like sun and the darkness, Emotion is the root antidote that which help us to absolutely uproot that. The rest of the antidotes are temporary. For example, when we get angry, if we thought of compassion, yes, but compassion will not uproot the anger, because compassion is not the opposite of, opposite of the ignorance, so to speak. So anyway, but here, first, we need to subdue the emotion, because when the emotions are too intense, the first thing we do is that we try to, subdue them, reduce them. It's very much like an enemy, so to speak. If you have an enemy, and if they're very powerful, first what you do, you can't attack directly, because if you attack directly, it is given that you will 100% lose. So you become very wise. You slowly and gradually let's say, reduce the enemy in terms of, cutting them. And then when they become you make them weak. Basically, you make them very, very weak. Once it becomes very weak, then it's very easy to uproot. This is compassion, kindness. When we do that, it weakens the emotions. In general, all emotions, and in this case, let's say anger, weakens that. Once when it's weak, then it's easy to get rid of, So these are different ways of doing that. And then, of course, these are very good advice, but as you can see, it's huge, but very important. First, we need to recognize the emotions. How do you do that? So really, the one way of doing that is meditation, of the combination meditation of shamatha and vipassana, combination of that, okay? It's very important. And the one that can really help you to get rid of the emotion, the true antidote, is actually vipassana. Like I said, the insight, along with the shamatha. But here, vipassana, plays the root role in this, so to speak. And then the third thing that is so that in future they don't grow back. so that in future these emotions, they don't, come back again. Then the consistency in our meditation is very important. Consistency in our meditation, in our practice is very important. So it's about the importance of the consistency in our practice. He says we must be very consistent. When we are consistent, then our practice will grow. When our practice grows, then whatever is opposite of that practice becomes weaker and weaker and weaker, and eventually they will lose. And this is very true, correct? So that's what he's actually saying in this one. All right, moving on now. One sec. Okay, I think I will. Okay, then it says keep the three main causes. Okay, I'm not going to read the commentary. I think it's taking too long time. Keep the three main causes. Again, these are advice. Three main causes, meaning this is regarding Dharma practice. So of course three things comes together in the Dharma: the teacher, oneself as a practitioner, and the conditions to practice. These three things, mainly about that. So here, first, of course, we need to find a teacher, who is knowledgeable, who can really help oneself. Not that this teacher has to be enlightened. Nowadays, to find an enlightened being is almost impossible. But someone who is knowledgeable, regarding Dharma, who, has good wisdom, good, let's say, understanding, and some experience, put it this way. But someone who is very genuine in the Dharma practice, a very genuine, honest Dharma practitioner. So we find that will be the guru, from the guru point of view, from the teacher point of view. Okay, so we may have now found the teacher or the lineage, so to speak, but now, that is from the, okay. But on my end, I also need to be, I also need to be qualified in order to practice the Dharma. I need those qualities also in me, like quality of devotion, renunciation, dharmic seed. When you have dharmic seed, so it means I need to be also the right vessel. From my end, I need these qualities, in qualities to really, receive those teachings. Not just receive, but also to understand, to practice, to mature. I need that quality within oneself. So that is the quality of the student, correct? We can see, or the listeners. And the third one is the condition. There are two. One, Dharma condition. The other, in this case, it is mainly about, since we are talking about Lojong, so the Lojong here is the bodhicitta, right? Bodhicitta. In this case, probably the condition is, it will come up later on. Generally speaking, the one that can really help with our kindness, compassion, and love are the, are the most difficult situations in our life, the most difficult people you meet in your life. Actually, they become the object of our compassion. It will come up later on, but I'm going to say now. It actually almost is like this. From the wish point, it's almost saying that, may I meet someone with whom I can practice compassion. That's not going to be your family. okay, at all. If you're thinking, you're wrong, actually. One that can really help to perfect compassion, love, is the individual who wants to kill you, who wants to really harm you, hurt you. That is it, actually, here, right? So now we even can't imagine that, for example. But it is true in this condition. From a bodhisattva standpoint of view, we have to really change our concept here. Right now, we are thinking from the bodhisattva's perspective, from the perspective of bodhicitta. Let's not say bodhisattva, bodhicitta. Not from our regular mundane perspective. Then from that perspective, it is 100% true. We need them. This is why early on it was said that, one is very grateful to this kind of very harsh conditions, to this kind of people, who really help you with your compassion, kindness, and bodhicitta. Without them, we can't even do that, because, okay, so this is also one way of thinking that if we are thinking as a Lojong practitioner, then that would be the, case. But as a Dharma practitioner, slightly different probably, slightly different condition point of view, then we need the right condition. From there are inner conditions, outer conditions. Outer conditions are environment. The environment and also, people, also the people that you hang out with, I should say, so. Right people. Here you want to be with right kind of people. Those right kind of people are people who are in Dharma and who are very genuine Dharma practitioner. You can call them sanghas, right, or something like that. But that is the practitioner. So that is, and of course, these are conditions we are talking about, right? Something very easy to know, but from the bodhicitta standpoint of view, the condition is different. Probably many of you know that, many, like Atisha always had this attendant who was very short-tempered, So then many people are like, why you are keeping him with you? And Atisha says, he doesn't need me, I need him. He is my best friend who helped me to really always check in on my, emotions. So he's my guru, who always helped me to understand that. Of course, we as an ordinary person cannot do that yet, but I'm just saying this is really the meaning of the practice in the book. Okay, so we make wishes that, along the path, may I also be able to have that kind of confidence, that this kind of development, and we will. We just need to stick to the path. We just really need to understand the meaning of Dharma more and more and more. Okay? Okay. I have to limit what I say. All right, moving on now. Cultivate the three without diminishment. Okay. Right. I have to also look into the Tibetan version of that. These are very general advice, but really very, heartfelt advice, I'm thinking. It just means keep up, it's very important to generate these three things. At the same time, very important to keep them up. Okay, one sec. Right here. Oops. Okay, sorry. Right, so here, what are those three, three things that we need to generate? At the same time, we really need to keep them intact, keep them up. The very first one is, in Tibetan we call mu ku, which we can translate as devotion. It says devotion to the teacher. Of course, devotion to the teacher is devotion to the teachings. I would like to think it's devotion to the teachings rather to the person. We have this devotion, trust, trust in this individual, because of the Dharma knowledge in them. So therefore, this is first is about we need to generate this trust. We generate this trust by listening, right? By listening, reflecting, meditating. Or we can also say by reading. That's how we experience the devotion, and we need to keep that up. The second, actually, thing here is enthusiasm, especially, joy. It means joy in practicing the bodhicitta, that joy. These two are actually linked. What was that? Earlier I said devotion. Devotion brings about this enthusiasm. It's very much a reverse. Enthusiasm can also bring the trust. Or trust can bring, let's say first I learn, through learning I develop trust, through trust then I develop, enthusiasm. Or it's actually reversed, it doesn't matter which, it doesn't reverse. But here, this enthusiasm also has this sense of joy. And this is, connected with what we call as the paramita of diligence. For example, Shantideva, when he defines the fourth perfection, is called diligence, Tibetan called Tsundu. And he says it's a state of a mind of enthusiasm with joy, or joy. Joy, in Dharma, joy in practice. Here he especially says lojong, one develops this joy, enthusiasm in lojong, and of course one keeps that up. And the third actually is, the keeping intact the three vows. The three vows are the Vinaya vow, which are the 7 liberation vows, and of course the Bodhisattva vow and the Vajrayana vow. So this, as you can see, all become foundation for our, path to enlightenment. And also, for instance, especially like the three vows are really, the foundation for enlightenment. You remember, usually there are three, we call them three disciplines, or three higher disciplines, we can call it. In Tibetan, we call Hlapa Sum. The first discipline of the is the discipline of the moral conduct. This is with regard to the Vinaya, actually. So that is the base for the remaining 2 disciplines. And the second discipline is the discipline of Samadhi. Actually, the first discipline is the discipline of Shila. You can say Shila. Shila as in 7 liberation vows. When we keep the 7 liberation vow intact, the foundation of all the qualities of the Dharma. And along with that, then we engage in what we call as samadhi. The second discipline is called samadhi. Samadhi is meditation concentration, the shamatha meditation. And along with shamatha meditation, we engage in the vipassana meditation. So the vipassana meditation is called the discipline of pragyana. Pragyana. Here the pragyana is the vipassana, wisdom. So these three, are foundation for each other. Without this practice, then there is no liberation, there is no enlightenment. So when we say Dharma practice, all this lojong and everything is included. Lojong, I think, is included within this category of the vows, correct, so to speak. So therefore, it becomes very important to keep them intact. So three things we need to keep intact, like it says here. In all of them, we need enthusiasm. In all of them, we need, diligence. Of course, in all of them, we need, yes, we need those, right? In all of them. It's not like separate. Probably it means that when I experience more and more, enthusiasm, then my diligence, grows and grows and grows. And when my diligence grows, all the laziness, the mental laziness, the physical laziness in me, they just go away. Just very naturally go away. So then the obstacle on my path, which is the main obstacle, which is laziness, all kinds of laziness, they just go away. The root, let's say, antidote for that laziness to go away is none other than enthusiasm, towa, that joy, that enthusiasm, which is born through hearing the Dharma, through knowing the benefit of the Dharma. When you know the benefit of the Dharma, importance, value of the Dharma, then of course enthusiasm is born. And then all laziness, really goes away. And when laziness goes away, then we are able to practice, practice consistently. So then it will become more consistent. So they are all connected from this point of view. All right, let's move on. Make the three inseparable. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Again, it's an advice. Okay. Again, it's an advice. Mainly, it's just saying that. Okay. It's very important to accumulate merit. Merit. And merit for higher rebirth, merit for liberation, and merit for enlightenment. But nonetheless, merit, correct? How do we accumulate merit? We accumulate merit through the doors of body, speech, and mind. So here the advice is that never, fail to accumulate merit. In other words, it's an advice saying that, always try to avoid the negative actions of the body, speech, and mind. And always try to remember the virtuous actions of the body, speech, and mind. Again, in other words, it means, that as a Dharma practitioner, first and foremost thing that we have to do is that we really should try our level best to abandon 10 kinds of negative actions of the body, speech, and mind, right? And at the same time, we try to engage in 10 kinds of virtuous actions with our body, with our speech, with our mind. This is really the advice in this. And this is the very first discipline. In Vinaya, this is called the discipline of keeping the discipline of abandoning 10 kinds of non-virtuous actions. Okay, so these are very simple, but at the same time, really very, very important for us. And we need the help of mindfulness and awareness all the time with this. I don't think we can do that without mindfulness and awareness. All right, I'm going to move on because these are simple, something we want to remember. Then it says, practice with impartiality. This we had many times. Again, this is with regard to compassion, kindness, and love. It's important. It basically means that we need to open up our heart to all sentient beings, right? To all sentient beings. Don't sort of exclude anybody. It's from why would I exclude someone from my compassion, so to speak. So he's saying that don't exclude anyone, don't leave out anyone. It's a very good advice. We really need to think about these things, which also means include everybody. I'm saying same thing in different ways so that we can understand that. And it is very true that, yes, we have love, we have compassion, we are born with this. We should be very happy about that, actually. We are born with all these things. Along with all of our emotions, we are also born with love, kindness, compassion, wisdom. We are born with that. And no one can take that away from you. Just like no one can take away your emotions from you, no one can take away this from you. We are born with this, and we are going to die with that, right? Again, we will be born with that. Life after life after life after life. Now the question is, which among these two things you prioritize? Okay, which among these two you want to keep? Which among these two you want to abandon? Right? You need to ask that question we need to ask this question to ourselves. Do you want to keep the emotions, or you want to keep the other things? Compassion, kindness, love. In this world, there is nobody who is without kindness, compassion, love. Everybody is capable of caring. No doubt. I don't have any doubt in that. That caring may be only for some people. But yes, deep down in our heart, we have concerns. It's a very good sign. We are concerned about unknown things, right? It's actually a very good sign. Unknown thing like we are concerned about future. Sounds very stupid, something that's not there, why you're concerned? But it's a very good thing. You are concerned about what will happen to people in future. You are concerned. That means you care. That means you love. If that is not kindness, if that is not compassion, then what is compassion? You tell me. For me, there is no compassion other than that. So I know, that I don't have to look in other people's mind. In my own mind, I can see that. I mean, we all can see that. So we are born with this, right? So yes, actually yesterday I mentioned it a little bit. Yesterday I mentioned a little bit that it's about, in Tibetan we have this thing called pakcha. Pakcha meaning, mental habitual tendencies, mental habitual patterns. This mental habitual pattern that I am born with, if you are born with, it must come from somewhere, correct, before you were born. So then it will really connect to the past lives. And the same thing you will carry on into the future, your this very mind. So what kind of pakcha you want to keep, or mental habitual patterns? Do you want to really carry on or keep, store all these very negative mental habitual patterns, or these very virtuous mental habitual patterns? It's very simple. What we are trying to do is that we are trying to reduce all of the negative mental habitual patterns with Dharma practice. We are trying to improve our, positive, virtuous mental habitual patterns, grow them. And we hope that they will continue to do that life after life after life. When they grow, the other part weakened. When the mental habitual patterns of the virtues, in terms of kindness, compassion, wisdom, when they grow, the other characteristic, that contradicts that are weakened very automatically. So therefore, you can see how benefit is going to be, in the future too. So anyway, impartial here, don't, very easy to know that. Just really important to remember that, So we try to open up our heart, to all sentient beings. We do try to do our level best to really include everyone in our good wishes, in our bodhicitta, why not? There's no harm in doing that at all. So we must try to always open up our heart. This heart is the big heart in terms of bodhicitta. Or I'm saying bodhicitta, I'm used to that. Let's say kindness. Kindness, I've said many times, kindness in general is unlimited. In its nature, we limit it without attachment. If you take out the attachment, the grasping, compassion itself is boundless. We don't make it boundless. We just remove these boundaries of grasping, of attachment. You take that away, this very kindness that you are born with, this very love, this very thing, they on their own, intrinsically, always boundless. So we are born with that, it's so amazing actually, so beautiful, so rich. Unfortunately, somehow they are hidden under all these emotions, all these confusions. It's very unfortunate, really, when you think of that. Here I am so very rich with all this, and yet I go through all this unnecessary suffering in samsara and all these emotions. I didn't need to do that. Very unfortunate, right, actually. Okay, I think I'm saying too many things. I need to finish this. All training must be pervasive and profound. Again, it's similar actually to what I'm saying before. It's similar because pervasive is just meaning like we include everyone, embrace from this point of view our love, our kindness, our compassion. We embrace everybody. We don't leave out any sentient being whatsoever. Correct. This is what it meant by. So this is the same as what I said before, so I'm not going to say too. What's with this? Again and again. But this is very profound, really. Probably we want to know why I am not able to embrace, why my kindness, why my love, is not able to embrace all beings. I want to know that. Okay? And we will find out the reason. The reason is very simple. We all know this. It's really self-cherishing. When we self-cherish, we only cherish people that, are close to you. This inner circle, we call that. We can call this very inner circle. A handful of people. It's because of the grasping. It's very unnecessary, actually. Anyway, so embrace, all sentient beings. At least this is what we try to do in our Tonglen practice. In our meditation, we always try to do that. Embrace all living beings with your care, with your love, with your compassion. Don't leave out anyone. That includes all the people that hate you, that want to kill you, that want to really destroy you. Especially those should be in the front row. No, I'm not kidding. Actually, in the meditation, they are in the front row. They are the main object of the compassion, kind of like I said before. All right? So as you can see that it's not everybody's cup of tea. Generally, Dharma is not everybody's cup of tea. That being said, it does not mean they cannot be accomplished. Dharma cannot be accomplished. Dharma cannot be practiced. It may be hard. It may be difficult. Yet, it is something that we definitely can accomplish. Definitely can achieve. We just need to be really consistent. We just need to be diligent. So we have to find a way to be diligent. We need to, find a way to keep up this, courage, this mind, this motivation, of practicing the Dharma. We don't want to lose it. Never lose that. Always, always protect that. Yes, we will, really be able to face this, difficult situations, all that. It's all up to us. All right. Meditate consistently in every circumstances. Right. Again, 2.1 from a very general point of view, the other from the bodhicitta standpoint of view. Here, when we are specifically, discussing about the kindness, the compassion, then this is from the standpoint of view of compassion and kindness, okay? If you don't think this, you can misunderstand this. So from a bodhisattva point of view, let's say, from a point of view of a very kind-hearted individual, let's not say bodhisattva. If it's awake in you, sometimes it can be abstract, So now let's take example of an individual who is very kind. From the point of view of this very kind individual's heart, it's spoken from his point of view, right? So that is from the standpoint of view of compassion, kindness, and wisdom. This is what Dharma is all about. So then we will have much better understanding of what it meant here. Also then when it says this here, it means the two things. One in Dharma practice generally, and one especially when it comes to the practice of the bodhicitta. Do not depend on external conditions. Right. Okay, so sorry. It kind of means don't listen to others. Listen to your own heart. This is what it meant. Of course, not to the teacher. It doesn't mean don't listen to the teacher. But otherwise, always follow your heart. Here, as a Dharma practitioner, I follow my heart. And I stop listening to other people. Because if I start listening to other people, I will not accomplish nothing at all. You know? So I just hear them from this and just, whoops. This is very important, right? You hear it, you just, zoom, zoom. But this advice is very helpful, really. We really need to follow our heart. Hear our own heart, our own mind. You can say intuition is not the right word, but here intuition as in my own Dharma, my own Dharma experience, my own Dharma understanding, knowledge. That. I follow that, that. So meaning follow your own heart and do, But again, not from the worldly point of view, So it also means you need to be very decisive. Correct? It means you need to be very decisive. I'm going to do this practice no matter what. If you make up your mind, you must follow that. Probably same in the world, but in Dharma, yes, you must follow that. Shantideva, there's a line in Shantideva's book, Bodhicharya Avatara, which is very beautiful. He says that once when you make up your mind, you must really do it. Otherwise, you will develop this habit of always, you will never complete anything, he says. And it is very true. I know from my own experience, I know this is very true. We always keep neglecting that. So it's like tomorrow, I'm going to do this, but today I'm busy, I'm going to do tomorrow. And that tomorrow almost never comes. And here I'm dying, and that tomorrow has not yet come, and it's not coming. Very unfortunate, actually. So this is why this advice, where it says that follow your heart, be very decisive, and do it, just do it. Don't wait. Because it's impermanent. My mind can change in blink of an eye, right? A blink of heart and eye, yes, in a heartbeat. Actually shorter than heartbeat. So therefore I need to stick to that, to this decision that I have made. I often do that when I also, ask the blessings of others, so that I don't change my mind. Because I'm an ordinary person, I know that, that I may not follow my decision. So anyway, this is what it meant here, right? As a practitioner, we really need to do that. Again, this is now from the standpoint of view of an advanced yogi, we can say that. But this does not mean that, I cannot do it. I can also do it, actually, right? Yeah. Once, if I remember this correctly, then what was that? Milarepa. He was meditating, and he was just doing his own thing. And then this hunter, he was hunting a deer, and the deer ran, and then deer came upon Milarepa. The story says that when deer came upon Milarepa, the deer just sat down, didn't run. The hunter also couldn't hunt. He also sat down. And then the hunter somehow started crying and all these things, and then he said, tells to Milarepa that, I want to follow you, I want to be in Dharma. Milarepa says, oh, that's very good. He says, can I go my home and tell them? He says, if you go, you will never come back. So don't go. The same story here. There are many stories like this in the Buddha's life story too. We need to draw some inspirations, aspirations from this, these stories. Really, it's very important for us to have aspirations or inspirations. That is what will keep us, in the Dharma, right? The Toa was aspiration. Yes, in other words, I use word enthusiasm, joy. Also, it means aspiration. Aspiration is actually a better word. Okay. Also here when it says do not depend on external conditions, it means disregard the provisions. And this also is very true, right? I'm not being negative, but I tell this all the time to my friends in America, in South America. When they go to retreat, they fill up their trunk with cushions, with all these things. They want very comfortable, everything comfortable. This is what it meant here, really. It's strange, you are going to Dharma practice, and then you fill up your trunk of your car with all yeah, and this is not enough, this is too hard, this is too soft, it's too cold, it's too hot, open the window, close the window, curtain, and this. All we are doing is distracted by my butt, distracted by my back, distracted by the sun. You put on the sunglasses, too dark. What you gonna do now? I am just distracted throughout. All you do is just being distracted. So that's what it meant, like, here. We don't want distractions. Yeah, so, but, all right. Downsizing is better. I won't say that you don't need anything, because if you sat on a floor that is very cold, you can get sick. So, of course. Not from that point, because then if you got sick, you won't be able to practice. There has to be a limit, to what you can do, so to speak. Anyhow, so we have to, manage, those things. It means don't with external, from that point of view, conditions. From now on, practice the chief priority. Yes, again, Shantidev was, teaching, and this is very similar. As a Mahayana practitioner, as a practitioner of kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, then what is my goal, actually? My goal is to help other people, to benefit other people. That is my goal. So this is what it meant here, that, we, in whichever way we could, we try to accomplish that. In whichever way, we could, we try to achieve that. Also, in the sense like Yes. In other words, it also means, we practice Dharma, and we practice Dharma with many, many skillful means. Correct? There are many, many skillful means. We try to implement all the methods, all the skillful means to practice the Dharma. And also when we want to help others, we try to do the same. That we try to remember all the, skillful means to help them. So yes, then we can, have some sort of, we can have some achievement in this way. Let's, yeah. Okay. Okay, but I think we'll move on now. From now on, okay. Do not be misdirected. Misdirected. Okay. Oops. No. Now here I have to look in this one. Okay. So here in Kolok-micha, they're wrong actually. It means don't, practice these 6 wrong things. Okay, so what are the 6 wrong things? The first one is let me check. Wrong patience. I think we actually know this very well. I'm bringing it up because it's interesting, wrong patience. According to Dharma teaching, what is wrong patience? Here, according to this teaching commentary, it's really true actually. Like it says, when it comes to Dharma, we have very little patience, or almost no patience. But when it comes to other worldly things, we have all the patience in this world. So that's the wrong patience actually. It's reversed. Whereas we need patience towards the Buddha Dharma. To that, as soon as I sit, listen to, I'm already sleepy, like I'm already tired. As soon as I step out from my meditation, I'm all good. So that is what it meant. That's the wrong kind of patience. Then second here is wrong compassion. Yes. So wrong compassion is, okay. According to this book, then the wrong compassion here, it says, having no compassion to someone who is, going through hunger. Someone is very hungry and thirsty. Okay, you have no compassion to that person. But you have compassion. Is that right? Yes. Let me check if that was right, because no, actually not like that. Sorry. Where I'm going, okay. Yes, the second actually is I'll come to the wrong compassion later on. The second compassion, I'm sorry, second wrong thing is wrong, wrong interest. Actually, wrong interest. This is very easy. It means having, no interest in Dharma, having all the interest in worldly activities. So that is the wrong, let's say, wrong. It's very much similar to the patient, but wrong intention. Then comes the wrong, we can say wrong experience or wrong taste. This is very subtle, I'm thinking, right? Wrong. The experience of wisdom, compassion, let's say wisdom of learning, reflecting, meditating. We reflect, we meditate, we learn, reflect, meditate. You gain a lot of, let's say, experience and joy and all that. And this is something that you don't desire, so probably we even don't know that what it is, so we don't desire. What we desire is the otherwise. So the otherwise is all other kind of taste. Could be food, could be drink, could be other things. So I'm thinking, all sort of other things, like food-wise, your delicious food, chocolate, all these other tastes, so to say. So wrong taste. It's about desire, actually, not so much about, taste, but about desire. So we desire, those things, but we don't desire, these experiences, that come from the Dharma, actually, so to speak. So it's a little bit more subtle. But for example, for the advanced yogis, it's reversed, right? They don't care about the food or drink. They are always in their meditation state. They are going through this experience, and they, let's abide in that, and they just, are absolutely abide in that. So therefore they don't, this other thing, they don't really feel it, or they don't care about that. Not in a negative point of view, So once when that happens, it can change this way. So it's opposite what he's saying, like us is different. So we need to do something to achieve this level, actually, so to say. Okay, wrong taste. Then comes the wrong compassion. So the wrong compassion here is not having any compassion to an individual who is accumulating lot of negative karma. You see someone who is really, doing lot of bad things, hurting other people, harming other people, that kind of, not having compassion to that, but rather having compassion to one who is practicing Dharma. It means there is, let's say, a yogi or someone in the retreat, and this yogi is very thin, it seems like it's going to kind of collapse anytime. So then we say, oh, this poor guy. Like, compassion to Milarepa, actually. There is a story about that too, that. So once when Milarepa, he is always out there in the wild. So one day, some people came upon him, and he was so skinny and so dark. We usually was green, probably it was very dark. So they thought it was, it was a ghost. So they jumped, saying, oh, there's a ghost. They come to know it's not a ghost, actually a human being. So they are all like, oh, this poor guy, oh, manipemi home, things like this. What kind of bad karma he might have done to be in such distrustful situation. They had so much compassion to him.
And then Milarepa is like, I actually am not the person you need to be, you need to have compassion too, so to speak. But I mean, it's not a wrong thing to do, but from that point of view. And so wrong compassion can be many things. In our world, sometimes it's wrong compassion. I'm not going to go too much into detail because then I think many things are there. But generally speaking, a compassion that is, induced, supported by wisdom are always very good. A compassion that is, that is born out of confusion, ignorance, attachment, normally are not good. I'm not sure if I can say wrong like that way, but yes, there is a difference in that. So depending on this, right, these things. Okay, so. Still. So that was the wrong compassion. And now let's see. It says wrong activity, we could say wrong activity. Again, wrong activity is same, activity, not engaging in the activity of Dharma, but engaging in worldly activity. That is the wrong activity. And then comes the wrong, okay. Wrong, it's called wrong way of wrong rejoicement, I could say. What it meant is that rejoicing wrong kind of activities. Many people tend to do that. Many, of course, people tend to do that. If you sort of appreciate, admire, someone who really is hurting a lot of people, you admire their activity. So those are wrong admiration. We can call it wrong rejoicement. Right and wrong here, I guess, from the point of view of anything that brings harm to other people is wrong, actually. And any activity that brings about, benefit or joy to others is right. So based on that, when we, we can now understand what it meant here, that, rejoice or appreciate or admire. So we need to be very careful, regarding these things. So we don't want to do those kind of wrong things, is what is, I guess, the thing here. All right. And so this actually was do not be misdirected. So wrong, six wrong. Don't engage in wrong things, engage in six right things. Do not be inconsistent. That I already said that. Inconsistent. Whether it is in our, especially in meditation practice, we really want to be consistent, And if you cannot, another thing about this I want to say is don't leave a very big gap between your practice, okay? And of course, you have a lot of work, job to do, you have, a life to live, so, but at the same time, if you try to keep, the gap shorter is actually good, okay? Like in sometimes when we keep a very long gap, and then between this gap, we are ordinary people, we get more and more influenced by our everyday life, everyday thoughts, and somehow that Dharma memory, inspiration fades. It's not that you don't have it, but they become weak, they fade. The whole point is that we, try to we try to keep this inspiration, aspiration, intact. So this is why when we, try to practice more, let's say, more and more, and try to keep those gaps short, then you can see it's actually better. So try to do that. We try to do this. Okay. So many good advices. Train interruptedly. Okay, that actually means be consistent. Train uninterruptedly. Right. Train uninterruptedly. It also means like the other way of understanding that there are two, one from the physical point of view, the other from the mental point of view. So let's say from the mind point of view, from the mental point of view, when it says uninterrupted, it means always, physically you may not be able to do this practice, you may not be able to sit down, meditate, but, but from the mind point of view, we can always use that practice, or we try to use that practice, as much as we can, wherever we can, whenever we can. This is another advice that. And I think that's really very important, right? This is the whole point of practicing, that we try to practice Dharma, wherever we can, whenever we can. In all the situations, we try to remember Dharma, we try to practice Dharma, whatever it may be. And so then in this way, then it becomes, that is all, there is inconsistency in you, correct? It becomes uninterrupted. Meaning, meaning that Dharma was always in your heart, in your mind, So that is what matters. So that is uninterrupted. Like I say many times, that we really want to always, keep Dharma in our heart, and remember as many times as we can, and that actually is the true way of taking refuge. When you are remembering it, you are taking refuge in that. So important, okay. So that is also an advice. These are all advice, how we can practice these things, and in different situations, I guess. And then it says, liberate by examining and analyzing. Okay, this is actually meditation. When we meditate, there are these two things, and it's called abiding. It's actually called analyzing and abiding. These are the ways how we enter into meditation. Analyzing is not meditation, okay? Abiding actually is meditation, so to speak. These are the ways to meditate, enter meditation. What it meant is that, for instance, compassion. When someone says meditate on compassion, how are you going to do that? The way to do that is, first I observe suffering, pain actually. When I observe suffering and pain in me, in other, that opens up the door for compassion automatically. Once when compassion, due to the recognition or presence of suffering and pain in me, in other, then that generates compassion in me. Once when that compassion is born, then I don't need to do anything. I just need to try to hold that feeling, try to hold that thought. Right? In this case, it's a thought, it's a feeling, I try to hold that. Not hold in the sense like don't let go of that. You try to stay in that mind stream as long as you can. Try to stay in this mind stream. One, right? So you can see, first I sat down, did a small Shine meditation or breathing in and out, and then you really rest and you analyze. Let's see. Suffering, the fault of samsara mainly. You can think of the beings in 3 lower realms if you want, their pain, their suffering. And once when we feel this, compassion, then we try to keep up that compassion as long as we can. Same with impermanence. If someone tells you to do meditation in permanence, you cannot do it directly. You again, same process. We first really sit down, meditate, and then you analyze, impermanence. You can think about your own body, the changes that, is happening with your body, with your mind. In this case, I'm thinking mind is more, more obvious because we understand how our thought, emotion fluctuate. We know that these thoughts, emotions are very uncertain, very, very uncertain, and they always change. Once when we gain this realization, this understanding, recognition is the right word. Once when I recognize, the process of impermanence, then I try to keep up that, that recognition, that realization. So that's abiding and analyzing. So it's also analytical meditation. Like in the analytical meditation, you are actually learning this from Khenpo Tsering, right? He is speaking about 4 kinds of mindfulness. So I guess you actually have, heard a lot about that. In short, also the other word I usually always I always tell to my friends, in States and in other places is analyzing and abiding is synonymous with mindfulness and awareness. Which is mindfulness, which is awareness? The abiding is mindfulness. Analyzing is awareness. In meditation, whether it is Shine or Laktong, let's say you are in this meditation now, and then when you are able to hold that view, when you are able to hold or stay with that meditation, you don't want to analyze, you don't want to do anything, okay? You just want to stay with that. But then, after some time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you want to know if any kind of, any kind of distractions are arising or not. So that is called analyzing. You analyze just to know whether or not if any kind of, distraction or mental thinking, mental excitement is occurring or not. So therefore, mindful awareness is, metaphorically speaking, they are compared to a spy, who spies on that. So in meditation, awareness is used occasionally. You don't use this all the time, because then you disrupt yourself. But mindfulness is not occasional. Mindfulness is constant. One that remains constant is mindfulness, because mindfulness is the one that holds together your meditation, your wisdom. That ability is called mindfulness. And the ability in that mindfulness, which helps you to recognize the arising of distraction, that is called awareness, okay? Just giving you an idea about that. Okay. So now we'll move on. Then Yes, do not seek recognition. This actually from, as a Dharma practitioner, then, it's really important that I don't practice Dharma for the wrong reasons. The wrong reasons would be if I practice Dharma, for fame, for wealth, for praise, all that, then it is wrong reason. So don't recognition from that to become famous, things like that. Those are the wrong reasons, right? Oh, okay. In Tibetan, actually in Tibet is a little bit different. Yumakum. Yes, no, actually, it's when I think of the Tibetan, then it's slightly different. It's slightly different. It says not a recognition. Okay. Anyways, I'm looking for the right word in English actually for this Tibetan. Okay, I'm going to explain that. I'm not finding the right word right now. What it meant is that when I practice Dharma, one that benefits the most from that is me. Right? It's me. So therefore, it is wrong for me to, to think that I'm doing this for others, because I am the one who is really, receiving all the benefit. So therefore, it will be wrong for me to tell other people, that, I'm doing this for you. So which means like, okay, what's the right word actually? It's sort of coming but not coming to me. It also means when you do something for other people out of goodness of your heart, you don't want to, what you don't want to? You don't want to show off. It's not just showing off. It's one, yes, showing off. Actually, you don't want to show off that, oh, I'm doing this. Showing off probably is the good word for this. Like showing off, Oh, I've done this, for that, all these things. I've built this monastery, that monastery, this retreat, all these kinds. So you show off. Just don't show off. Why? Because, the one who really gains a lot from that is you. You are going to become Buddha. You're going to become Bodhisattva. So therefore, in other words, it also means to keep it very discreet and don't just show off to other people. One word is don't show off. The other word also has the sense of bragging. I get these both are the same. Bragging is probably another word. You brag about your realization. You brag about, oh, I've done this kind of thing, these things to others, so don't brag. Actually, it also means that. There should be another word also. It also means don't try to clothe. Yes. It's okay. There is more to this actually in Tibetan. When you say yumashi, I'm saying Tibetan word, okay? So it means boast. Don't boast. Similar to that. Okay. Boast. Don't boast around. No, not that. But it also means that. But yes, thank you. Don't boast. Ego, it's just so much ego in there. And then do not be moody. That's quite understandable. And do not seek gratitude. That actually is what it meant before. Okay, do not seek gratitude. These are all very understandable. I guess it's same. Do not seek gratitude is what I'm trying to say before, actually. So these are all very simple, yet important. In short, it's just one word, like we had before. Remember, a good practitioner, a genuine practitioner, a genuine generosity is just act of giving and expecting nothing in return. This is what it meant. The whole thing is about that. But if I, hoped for some kind of gratitude from other people, and if I expected something in return, then all of my Dharma practice, generosity, will become very mundane. So therefore, the whole thing that is said is, like bodhicitta, when I'm doing this practice of kindness, then why are you hoping for, gratefulness from other people? Other people don't have to be thankful to you, actually, so to speak. So anyhow, this idea, the advice is really like in one line, like it always says that, when you do something good out of the goodness of your heart, you do it without any expectations whatsoever. This is it. So I believe we really do that, actually. Many a times that's what we are doing. That we are just simply helping without any expectations whatsoever. Okay, so that's the end of... let me check if there's any other sentences. There are no sentences, I guess, after this. No, actually. That's... So we now sort of went through all the verses, I hope, and I hope I didn't leave out anything. But of course, this is, just the beginning of it, and now it's... we need to, whenever you get the chance, please read through these verses. You don't have to go, like you don't have to read start to finish, but, you just try to at least read from time to time, to remind ourselves of, what this lojong means is going to be very helpful. Really very helpful in all life situations. Okay, so I think I will now stop here. So again, thank you very much for being here, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to teach. We all need this. Do not? Okay, on to the anger. Yes, so it means practice patience. Yeah, I probably didn't read it. It says, do not hold on to the anger. These are very good advice. In general, it just means that we tend to... Again, I'm going to go back to what I said before in terms of mental habitual tendencies. You know, the way we grow all the mental habitual tendencies is we hold on to them. And how do we do that? We engage in them, all the time. When we engage mentally, when we engage in them, they only grow and grow and grow. So here, the advice actually is not only with anger, but with all the emotions. Just saying that the reason this emotion, they become so strong in us is because we are constantly thinking about it, correct? We are constantly thinking about it. So the very simple advice here is that you say, stop thinking that. Try to not think about it. Try to interrupt, that thought. So the way we try to interrupt that thought actually is trying, by distracting that thought. So with meditation, with compassion, with other things, we try to distract. We have to distract the mind. And when we distract the mind, we interrupt the flow, correct? We interrupt the flow. So when we interrupt the flow, then we try to focus on something else. We try to think about something more positive, something more beneficial, something more joyful. These are hardcore advice on mind training. But at the same time, it's really important. So again, all of our emotion, thought that we go through, where are they coming from? They are coming from our mind, correct? Really, they are coming from our mind. Where did they go? They also go back to our mind. That's called storing. We store them. When we say store, I'm thinking, actually, we mean to say that we grow them. It's already there because they came from, my anger come from there. So when I say store, it's not like number-wise. It's not like anger number 1, anger number 2, anger, not like this. This very same anger, the more and more I feel it, of course, it gets bigger and bigger, correct? It gets bigger, and it becomes stronger and stronger. This is the meaning of storing back into the Laya consciousness, if you want to think that way. So the way to really, work with our emotions is to interrupt the flow of the negative emotions. Whatever it may be, there's a flow, and that flow is due to my own mental habitual patterns. I need to recognize that mental habitual patterns. And when I recognize it, then I, find a way to interrupt that habitual pattern. I try to, change that mental habitual patterns. So this is the true way of getting into our own mind and changing or transforming our own mind from the within. It always can be done from the within, right? So this is the meaning of that. Again, the foundation to do that is really this meditation of the combination meditation of shamatha and calm abiding. They are the combination of that. Okay, the combination of that. In other words, mindfulness and awareness. That is very much the foundation for that, which from within will, change our perspective and our mental habitual patterns. Okay. So yes. Okay. So, anyways, so I was saying, I was talking about our practice, our time together here. It's very, very precious memories that we, have now accumulated. This memory of the Dharma practice, discussion of the Dharma, we should really cherish that. This is something you can take back with you, to your homes, I could say, and then you try to cherish that memory and try to improve those Dharma memories. It's all about that, correct? That is the Dharma practice. So there is always, it always will be with you, like I said, these memories of the courses, not only the course in Kibi, but all these Dharma courses. And at the same time, then we, make this wish that, we meet again and again, through Dharma. Through Dharma, and meaning we practice Dharma together, we learn Dharma together with your friends, Sangha friends. That probably is the best thing we can do. Not probably, that is the best thing, that has happened in our lives. So we should really appreciate our own karma. You really should appreciate your karma. Of course, I appreciate my karma that, it's a way of saying that I should feel proud of myself with this regard, that I have this karma to meet with the Dharma and to have all these friends in the Dharma, so that, and at the same time, then we also improve this same karma, so that, we establish this karma strongly, and in coming lifetimes, they become much stronger. Our Dharma realization, everything. So it's this journey, right? It's this journey that we take together, and we take this journey together life after life after life after life until we reach enlightenment. So we're always, taking this journey together. It's not about today, tomorrow, or this year, or this life, or next life. It's about until the time, actually, we all become Buddha. So that kind of, mental, that this is important to remember that from the wish point of view, right? We make this wish that we stick, that we have started our journey on the path of the Dharma, and we want to really stay on this path, on this journey, until the time I'm dying, and also through the bardo, and also, in my coming lifetimes too. So this kind of wish, is very important. So I advise, request to think about these things. All right, so then I think I'm going to stop here for, okay, say the dedication. Oh, actually, I can take some questions before the dedication. I have a few minutes. Am I right or I'm wrong? Is 11 or no? Okay. 11, after 11.
Thank you, Khenpo, once again. So my question is regarding emotions. So when studying Buddhism, there is often this notion, and you're using it as well, that emotions are enemies, especially negative ones, and like we want to subdue them, to interrupt them, diminish them, and so on. And so so I know many people, and myself included, that can't help but understand it in a kind of dualistic way, that that like emotions are bad and harmful, and on the other hand, like the calm, peaceful, emotionless mind is basically like the objective, and we should achieve it. We should try to achieve this state, like emotionless state, and so it's something feels kind of wrong with that view to me, and so is this view correct? And if so, then why, for example, why in Vajrayana we have all these, wrathful deities like Dharmapala, Vajrayogini, and all the various yidams that are supposed to be enlightened, and at the same time that are driven by negative emotions for like mainly driven through negative emotions.
Okay. So it is true that we need to work with our mind in general, especially with negative emotions, by implementing the antidotes. And the antidotes are usually meditation, which is Karma body meditation, Vipassana meditation. Those are the antidotes. Along with that, of course, bodhicitta. So that is correct. And as far as Vajrayana stuff is concerned, I actually cannot really elaborate on that. So probably next time you can ask, when there's more time, you can ask some other teachers regarding this, because it's a very huge topic, right? So.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm saying the dedication now. Sunam dia tamje zeba nye tonai nye pe dana pamche. Chegaya na je balaya tupa ye sebe sole do re shoy. Gewan diye kiwoye kun senam ye che sodon. Senam ye che le chungwa tambai kunye tobare shoy. Minjara lomba kuya tashi shoy, yenlaya tukjo songye tashi shoy. Tadala temya tukje tashi shoy, gyave kusong tukje tashi shoy. Changcho semcho rimbo che ma che panam che jir. Che baya nyambaya me bandang, kongne kongto pelwara shoy. Tenpa jikten kamso chenpa tang tenpa niwe jendo sewa. Tenzen polo tarshin jepa yi. Tenpa yore nebe tashi sho. Thank you very much.